listening to Chasing Prophecy Radio, where we discuss anything and everything beyond the scope of normal. On UPRN Talk Radio FM 107.7 in New Orleans and FM 105.3 in Mississippi.
If it's unexplainable, we're talking about it.
Whether you're a believer or a skeptic,
We cover everything where the unknown becomes the known.
And now, here's your host, Jenny Nicasio.
Hello, New Orleans on FM 107.7 and 105.3 in New Orleans and streaming everywhere from around the world. I'm Jenny Nicasio, welcoming you to Chasing Prophecy Radio, where we discuss anything and everything beyond the scope of normal. I'm glad to see you all here tonight. And if you're streaming, we are on multiple streams all over YouTube and Facebook and streaming on Twitch, I believe also. And there's a lot of stuff in the news tonight. And tonight's a big night, and I'm hoping things turn out as we like them to. And everybody knows where I'm at. But before we get started with tonight's show, I just want to let you know to comment. We have a great guest tonight. It's going to be a good show. So make sure you comment, and we will get to you as soon as possible. Let me turn off my phone because it's starting to bing. But recently, there's been a significant buzz in the UFO and UAP communities about the jellyfish. And we've talked about the jellyfish UFO. And this object has garnered attention everywhere, all over TikTok, YouTube, on the internet, due to the footage showing its unique appearance and abilities, including what seems to be a trans-medium capability where it dips below the surface of the water super fast and then shoots out. And although the Pentagon has acknowledged the existence of the footage, but they have not provided a detailed information regarding this. Since it is a sensitive topic, they're not denying it, but they're not, phasing it out either. So they're not saying it doesn't exist. And this developed as part of the growing trend of the UAP tracking and the public interest, heightened by the testimonies of the United States Armed Forces and the congressional hearings that we heard last, I think it was a couple months ago. Well, it's been probably about 6 months now. And the whistleblower and it's kind of something that's not going to go away. And there's a lot of stuff in the news regarding the Miami Beach incidents at the Bay Mall. People are coming out all over TikTok saying they saw it and they truly believe that it is for real. Now, I recently watched the footage with Jeremy on the UFO Revolution documentary, and it's kind of scary because we're getting into other things other than ET. So we're getting into the interdimensional realm. Just want to make sure my chat's up. Okay, so I just want to get that out of because we're going to talk about this stuff tonight. And we're going to talk with Camille James Harman. She's an actress and a UFO experiencer. And her credits include an Oscar-winning film Vice, for which she was interviewed by The Advocate for her role as Mary Madeline. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but her credits also include Shameless, which I'm going to check out tonight after the show, a Lifetime movie, A Daughter's Deceit, and numerous films, web series, commercials, music videos. And she's an executive producer on the award-winning short film Toro Dio Rio, I think I'm pronouncing that right, in 1992, where she won a Stoner Boone Award in New Orleans. And Best Supporting Actress in the Playboy of the Western World. In 2022, she won 3 International Best Actress Awards for the short film Tiger Lily. Oh, we got a superstar here tonight. And UFO sighting and abduction experience followed. So this is going to be a good one. And she underwent hypnosis sessions with Barbara Lamb and Yvonne Smith, which revealed medical experiences with presumed alien and human military, as well as possible light beings of pure love. And she's attended the 50th anniversary of the Roswell crash in 1997, then traveled to England in 1998 to see the crop circles. And she wrote for UFO Magazine from 2000 to 2004, which allowed her to meet many legendary UFO researchers. And she's also presented the MUFON Orange County, Tucson, Phoenix chapters and has appeared as herself in several paranormal TV shows. She was interviewed in the Los Angeles Times about her UFO experience and so much more stuff. So she's going to tell us her story, and we're going to discuss this in just a few seconds while I bring her on to the show. Well, thank you for joining us tonight, Camille.
Hi. I'm so happy to be here and to be on the radio in New Orleans because I'm from New Orleans, y'all. Seriously.
Yeah,
Happy Mardi Gras.
Yeah, definitely. This is an exciting show. So if you have any comments, if you're going to pop in, it seems like we start getting trickling in. I don't know what's going on with the StreamYards lately, but at least the people in New Orleans can hear you for right now in Mississippi. I think they're all on. I mean, I do see that we're being shot live. So without further ado, go ahead and tell us the story. I mean, you have a lot of credits behind you, ma'am.
Well, I try to focus on my acting career but the UFO stuff fills my brain so much of the time, as you might understand. So many people that this happens to become rather obsessed with getting to the bottom of it, and being an actress and being an extrovert, I'm no exception to that. So everything was going great back in 1995 when I decided to move from New Orleans after getting my master's at UNO. I got an MFA at UNO in 1994 under my maiden name, Camille Mo. And my boyfriend and I had just done a performance of Richard III at City Park on the Peristyle. So we thought we were hot stuff and ready to go to LA. And we packed up the U-Haul and moved to LA. And I had been compelled right before leaving town. I had this job on Royal Street in an art gallery, and it was August, right before we moved in September. And I went over to Bookstore when Bookstore used to be at Jack's Brewery, and it was a big bookstore. And I felt really compelled to buy this book, Breakthrough by Whitley Strieber. And I just saw that alien face, and I had seen the movie Communion, but I hadn't read his other books. But I just grabbed it, and it was a hardcover, and I was like, oh my God, this guy is still writing about aliens? Like, what does he think now? Because I got to have this book. And I never bought alien books before. That was my first one. I was a big Anne Rice fan. I was buying Anne Rice books.
Yeah.
But I got this book, and I sat there at this gallery in August with no tourists and read this book, like binge read this book, and went, oh my God, what the hell is going on in this planet? And I was hooked. So that's kind of how it started, to be honest, is that book triggered me. And by the time we got to LA, where I had everything going for me, I had my SAG card, I had an agent, I had a day job. We had this great house overlooking the sky. We were on a hill, and I was so excited to just, be a big actress and become famous, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Whatever. And then in December, just a few months after moving to LA, I noticed that I was having all this weird anxiety and like pregnancy symptoms. And I was on the pill and I didn't think I was pregnant. And I had a sighting with Eric while we were walking our dog. And it was a daylight sighting. It was my first sighting. And I remember getting so excited and giving him the leash and running home to report it. And I reported it to MUFON. They actually had a UFO hotline number in the phone book back then. And they said, oh, thank you for reporting it. And by the way, we have these monthly meetings with experts, at this place called the Pickwick Center in Burbank at the time. And they said, do you want to come to the meetings? And I was like, oh, I am there. I'm totally there. So around the same time I had this sighting in December of 1995, I had this attack in my bed of sleep paralysis. And it had happened to me before in my life, but this particular time, it happened twice in one night. It happened first when Eric was in the living room watching a movie, and secondly, when he was back in the bed. And when it happened, I heard this voice call my name in my left ear, like this metal, this like, I always say it sounded like the Beastie Boys Intergalactic. You know, it was like this mechanical sounding voice. And that song came out later, actually. When I heard that song, I was like, that's the voice, you know, that intergalactic. It was like that. And it scared me to death because I had never been in this state of paralysis and heard anything. And I also was shown like I had a flash of an image of a gun pointed at me. So it's really scary because, you know, it was like I had an audio and visual hallucination or whatever, right? And I ended up meeting Barbara Lamb at one of these MUFON meetings after hearing Kim Carlsberg speak and seeing her book and her stories. And I was like, oh my God, I was in the back row going, I think I'm one of these people. I really do. Like I had this knowing, you know, kind of panic come for me. And I was looking at Kim's book in the back on the table where she was selling the books, and it had a checklist in the back. And I'm flipping through it, and I'm looking at all these things, all these symptoms of abduction. And I'm like, oh my God, I have like 85% of these symptoms, you know, like nosebleeds as a child and paranormal fears and all this stuff. And anyway, I made the appointment with Barbara. We targeted that night in December when I had the sleep paralysis attacks. And I had this full on abduction memory. And it was terrifying. I mean, my teeth were chattering. I was screaming. I had terror like I've never known in my life. And, you know, it was like a fetus removal memory. It was
Oh my God.
those. And, you know, and I was like, well, okay, this makes so much sense because I had no period for 3 months. I had all these weird pregnancy symptoms like heartburn and sore breast and just anxiety and, you know, weirdness. And I'd never been pregnant before. I've never had an abortion. I like, and usually if I'd ever been late on my period, I would just run down to the Walgreens and get a test, you know, and be done with it. But for some reason, I never went and got a test. I just kept waiting and waiting and waiting. And then in January, everything went back to normal. I got my menstrual cycle back and everything was normal. And I was like, okay. So I come home with my little cassette tape from Barbara and I play it for my poor boyfriend, you know, and he just looks at me like, holy crap. Like,
holy crap, is right.
You know, what am I going to do with this information? And my girlfriend, is she crazy or is this going to take over her life? Like, what is going to happen from this? And he was really mortified with me because I would talk about it to people and we'd go to parties and stuff and I would talk. I felt compelled. I just couldn't sit on it. And he would say, why do you talk about it? Why can't you just keep this to yourself? And I said, I don't know. I just think it's the most important thing in the whole freaking universe. And I'm an extrovert and I can't help it. And he's like, people are going to think you're crazy. And he said, it's like you're born again Christian, but worse. I was like, I'm so sorry. I can't help it. And it happened again. Okay. So he went out of town. He actually went back to New Orleans to shoot a TV show for a week and I was alone. And this was in 1996 in July. And I'm sleeping alone and I wake up 3 nights in a row at 4 a.m. sharp with a digital clock that said 4:00. And I was like, what is happening? I don't hear a noise. Why am I getting up at 4:00 for no reason? 3 times. And the third morning of that, I was shaving to go see my friend at the beach. I was shaving my legs and I had this like freshly scabbed over bleeding, not bleeding, but, you know, like fresh scab puncture wound in the shape of a triangle on my calf. And I was like, I have seen this. This is some alien thing. I've seen it in a video. Because by then I was recording like the Learning Channel videos and all those reality shows about alien abduction. I was obsessed. And so I went and got a hypnosis session with Yvonne Smith, just to try someone different. I was like, Barbara's great. I love Barbara, but Yvonne Smith is the other lady that does this. I'm going to go see her and see what happens, see what it's like. And I have a full-on abduction memory with her. And this time, instead of going through the ceiling in this beam of light, I go out the window, which is kind of weird.
Oh, God.
But then I'm on the table. Hold on, I'm going to sneeze, I think. I'm getting over a cold.
God bless you.
Pardon me.
God bless you.
Sorry. So I I went out the window and I'm on the table in the ship. Like there's no, like for me, there was no memory of seeing a ship above my house, right? I
Hmm.
just was in this beam of light. And then once I went through the ceiling and once I went out the window and then I would be on the table. Like I don't have any memory of getting to the table, if that makes sense. So in this memory, I had little short aliens that had wrinkly heads.
Oh,
And I had a big tall one, like a gray but it was white and it had white robes. And the other ones they were white, with the big almond eyes, and they had white robes with a high collar. The other ones from Barbara's thing too. And, but this one, he had like this wand with this thing that came out of the ceiling, and he put this tip on it and he just tapped my leg. And that's what made that mark in my leg. So, that was that one. And then, I mean, I could stop here, but I had a couple more. And, it just took over my life. I was like, what is going on? And everything about acting was just secondary,
this was taking over your life.
Yeah. And the boyfriend and I broke up after I went to see the crop circles in I went to Roswell in 97 with my friend. And that was amazing. And I met everybody. I met John Mack and Robert Dean and Whitley Strieber. Everybody was there. It was the 50th anniversary of the crash, and it was a big deal. Mm-hmm. And I got these great photos, by the way, at White Sands. My friend had a good camera, and he said, just go run around in the sand dunes, and I'm going to take your picture. And I drew this big alien face. And then I was yelling at this guy. I was like, I dare you to come down here, you bastards. And right where I'm looking, and it happened in two photos, right where I'm looking, there's this like white squiggly thing right in front of my face, this
God.
light anomaly. And then I do it the other way and the same thing. So I have that. And that was kind of cool. But then in 98, I went to England to see the crop circles, which was amazing. And I hooked up with Barbara Lamb, and she took me to my first one. And it was great because, people talk about synchronicities a lot. And I had this obsession with Sting. I was like crazy about Sting, the singer from the Police, since I was 15, and I'd seen the Synchronicity tour. So I go to England, and Sting lives right near all that action in Wiltshire. He lives right near Stonehenge in this big mansion. And so I had gone to Sting's house, and he was in the driveway when this little car went through the gate. I was like, holy crap, he's standing right there in the driveway. And so Barbara picked me up the next day, and we drove over to Stonehenge, and I told her about the whole Sting thing. And she said, well, I'm taking you to see your first crop circle, and it just happened last night. So we go, and it's like misty, and we're walking around in this big thing. And later that night, we found out, the aerial photo of it, and the nickname for it was called the Stingray. And it looked like a
that is so strange.
Oh my God. I felt like it was made for me. I felt like, we know you're obsessed with Sting and UFOs, and here you are, and you came all the way from LA, and we're going to give you this great circle called the Stingray. I really felt that. I don't know. Just saying.
God, it's crazy. It's like it was in your head. So definitely. There's so many weird stuff like that's happening recently to people. It's unusual. Yeah, it's crazy.
And I make note of all those. So I had this fling in England with this guy, and I came home to Eric, my poor boyfriend, my long-suffering boyfriend who hated all this UFO stuff. And I said, and we had gotten engaged by then too, Eric and I. And I came back and I said, I had a fling in England, and I guess we have to break up. And he's like, oh, thank God. He goes, oh, thank God. He said, I was hoping that would happen because I wanted to break up with you, but I didn't want to be the bad guy. So we broke up, and we stayed friends, and it all worked out. So then I met Jeff right after that. And Jeff and I met at a gas station in Malibu pumping gas. And I had the sticker that said, I love England. And he just asked me, he said, what part of England do you love? And I was like, dude, I was just in Wiltshire looking at crop circles. Okay, you're not going to know what I'm talking about. That's how I felt, right? And he said, oh, crop circles. My friend Jim Dilatoso showed me a video of UFOs making crop circles. I said, you know Jim Dilatoso? Because he was this big video expert in Phoenix who analyzed the Phoenix lights and everything. And so he said, yeah. And he said, well, what got you into UFOs? And I said, well, they got into me. He said, "Oh, I had trouble
Literally,
with him too, in
they got into
Wisconsin."
you. Yeah.
Yeah. He goes, "I had trouble with him in Wisconsin when I was growing up. I saw him all the time." And so we started talking at the gas station and we swapped cards. And then we had a date, a month later when
That's
I got over the
crazy.
fling in England. And,
You
and here we are married with a kid, that was 1998. Here we are.
that
So
gives people hope. You met him at a gas station?
in
You
Malibu,
hear that? You hear that, ladies?
you never know. Bumper
Yeah, you never
stickers.
know.
You never know. Wear your bumper sticker and your t-shirt and your cap so you have talking points with people.
You never know. Yeah, you never know. That is amazing. Your story about your abduction is so similar to things that happen to me with the sleep paralysis and seeing the figures above your you're at the foot of your bed.
Mhm.
And I was watching a documentary UFO. What was it? I just saw it the other day. UFO, and it wasn't the revelation. It wasn't that one. It was another one. Damn, I can't remember it. But they were talking about how these sleep paralysis is one of the main focal points, and how can everybody have the same experience? And a lot of psychologists like Brian Sharpless was on the show like 4 times, said there's a chemical, something happens in your brain while you're sleeping. And I'm not buying that. So if we're all
Yeah.
having the same experience, especially when you were saying somebody was whispering in your ear, I just had that like probably 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I've heard of a lot of people who've had that. I know that Jack Sarfati, the physicist in Silicon Valley who works on UFOs, his childhood story involves hearing an electronic voice. There's some others. So that's not uncommon, like an AI generated voice. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like. I
Yeah.
couldn't understand it. It was like I was telling my family, my sons, because they're all into all this, and I said it was like when your voice changer, like when you change a voice to like something electronic. That's what
Mhm.
it sounded, but I couldn't make out what it was saying. It was just a language that I did not understand. Did you hear? Did you understand what they were saying?
Well, all they said to me was Camille.
Okay, they
And it was
said your
so
name.
startling because they just said my name, but I was like, what was that? It wasn't a human sounding voice, it was machine sounding voice. So fast forward to the sleep paralysis. I used to go to channelings of this entity Bashar that channels through the
Oh my
mind.
god, this
Yeah.
is like we're having this like connection. I was just going to ask you about, because I'm hooked on him
Yeah.
lately. I was going to
Oh
ask
yeah.
you, Bashar, because he's from California and he's
Yeah.
also he's in the Hollywood scene, the Los Angeles scene.
Yeah.
He's a
And he's
director.
speaking at the Conscious Life Expo in February that Jeff is speaking at in
Oh
LA, by the
wow.
way.
I'd
He's a
love to get
headliner.
him on the show.
Yeah. So I asked Bashar because you could go to these channelings and ask him questions. This was in the 90s when he wasn't as huge, right?
Mhm.
And he told me many interesting things. I mean, I don't know what to make of Bashar, but he told me I had multiple hybrid children. That's one thing.
Oh, goodness.
He told me that my mother was an abductee, and he told me that the sleep paralysis this is the way he put it. He said it was the doorway sensation of changing dimensions.
Oh wow.
I know. So like when you're coming in and out of the dimension that they take you to,
Mhm.
and you're coming back to your bed and becoming conscious in this dimension again, it's that feeling you get when you're coming out of it. And what's really weird? I want to show this book. Okay, I love books. I'm a book nut. I'm reading this book right now. They Flew. Okay, by Carlos Eire, E-I-R-E. And I heard about it on a Willie Strieber show. He was talking to Jim Semivan. And I'm a Catholic. I'm like a bad Catholic, but I'm a Catholic. Okay, basically. I have issues with a lot of things, but I love Catholicism, and I just am so fascinated by it. And I've had good experiences with it. Even though I know a lot of bad stuff. Anyway.
Yeah,
So
me too.
the mystics and the
I had to write this
saints.
down. They flew. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. The mystics and the saints are so fascinating and compelling to me. And this book, They Flew, is specifically about saints who levitated or bilocated. And it's fascinating because some of the things that happen to them are similar to what happens to abductees. and they would go catatonic, like paralyzed, and be in these ecstatic states where they were in another dimension with God. Sometimes they would fly like up into the, 40 feet in the
Mhm.
air, witnessed by multiple people, thousands of times. Like in the case of St. Joseph of Cupertino, specifically,
Okay.
he did this so many times. He did it in front of, royalty, and he did it in front of the Pope. Like he was very well documented. And so the book is about this, it's like, if that happened and that was real, how come we aren't talking about that? All these mystics, it's not just Catholics either. Like, how come that is not part of the conversation
I don't
of
know.
time?
They don't talk about that stuff. No one,
No.
not people think you're crazy, still think they have a stigma that you're nuts when you're
Yeah,
talking about alien. The only thing
yeah.
that people are now talking about, Tucker Carlson and all the Jeremy, what is Jeremy's last name? Do you know who I'm talking
Corbell.
about?
Corbell.
Corbell.
Yeah.
Him and everybody, like Travis Walton, everybody, all these people that came out or they're talking about it. They've been talking about it since, oh my God. I from the X-Files, before the X-Files, we've been talking about
Right.
this. And now that these whistleblowers have come up, they're not, you don't hear too much of it on like mainstream media. It's like they're still not giving it transparency that it needs to have, when we know any day now, who knows?
Right.
There was a it wasn't your husband. Someone was on the show. Oh, who the heck was it? There was a psychic on this. No, was it your husband? No, I don't think. They said that they were going to talk. They were going to actually make contact. Wasn't your husband? I don't think. In 2026 going into 2027. And they said that we're still not going to believe it. Like, because
Well,
of
I
all the
agree. Right. There are a lot of intelligence people like John Ramirez, who I befriended at a couple of UFO conferences. I spoke at UFO Con in February of last year. Or was it March? I think it was February. And could have been March. And then I also saw him again at Contact in the Desert. And I've made friends with Chris Bledsoe a year ago. And all of these people are saying that it's on the alien timeline. It's not about us. Like, the aliens are going to show themselves in some spectacular way
Mhm.
soon. And so the government now is scrambling to do a controlled disclosure so that people get ready psychologically, but it's not so fast that they lose their minds over it. And I
Mhm.
think what's so complicated is this interdimensional factor, and this factor that these beings have been alongside us all through history. And I think our history is a lie, a lot of it. I think we've had, I got really into Tartaria research a couple of years ago. And this idea of that we've had, let's say, the victors write the history. So they tell you the history, and they control the libraries, they control the publishing industry, they control the universities.
Mhm.
And so if they want to put out a narrative of a certain history, they can do that pretty much. So I think the veil thinning and everybody waking up is, they're not going to be able to stop it. It's going to happen on multiple levels about multiple subjects. It's going to happen about corruption being exposed. It's going to happen about
Mhm.
the aliens, the other dimensionals, the history, the resets, you know, who we are, who we are. It's all about who are we? Like, if the aliens are so interesting, yeah, but why are they, what do they want from us? What are we to them? Are we a food source? Are we a soul container? Do they
Yes,
want
a
to
soul
take our
container.
energy from us? So I had a negative experience with beings that put like a vacuum into my solar plexus and were trying to suck my soul out of me. And I
That's the
called on,
soul harvesting.
yeah, and I called on Jesus. I said, "Stop in the name of Jesus Christ," and it stopped. And I woke up and I heard wind chimes, and I was like, "Oh my
Oh my
God!"
God.
So there's that element. There's the military involvement. I had a MyLab memory where I was taken and they put something in my tooth. My dentist found this thing in my tooth. So I went and got hypnotized with Barbara, and I thought I was going to get aliens. And I had this whole military abduction memory with guys in lab coats and uniforms in an underground base. And I was like, no, no, no. Because there's something more terrifying about that than the aliens, in a way, because when you have a memory like that, first of all, it's your own kind betraying you, right?
Yes.
Second of all, it involves something very high tech or very sneaky, because how did they do that and you don't remember it until you do, right? And then the other thing is, you think, you get paranoid. You're like, oh my God, if that's real and that happened, then what else has happened to me that I don't remember? Like, it's very frightening. And the quality of memory I had in that memory also was different, in that with the aliens, I felt really awake and alert, but I was just immobilized. I couldn't move, but I was like hyper focused. But in the memory of this human abduction, I felt really drugged. Does that make sense? I felt drugged. And then they put me on this helicopter and the ceiling opened up and they brought me home to my neighborhood in Silver Lake in Los Angeles. And they said, go home and take a nap. It's like, that's all I remember, being flown home in a helicopter in the daytime. So I don't know how they got me. I don't know anything. I don't know what's real. All I know is I had this memory and I'm like, holy cow, what if that's real? That's terrifying. How else did this thing get in my mouth that my dentist found?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's
I
like
know.
you don't know what to believe. What scares, like you said, the militaries, like how the government, like how do we know? How do we know the government is not doing all this? And
Yeah.
they made these hybrids out of just gene testing and
Yeah.
experimenting.
There's that
It's like,
theory. What if they're just mind controlling us and it's all cloning and gene experiments, hybrids, chimeras, whatever, chimeras? You hear all these awful things about underground bases, and it's linked to be honest, it's linked to human trafficking.
yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Like, what if these missing people are being fed to some creatures down in the underground base or experimented on in the underground bases?
And they're
It's
using
terrifying.
that chromaton. What's a hormone that Jim
Yeah, the
Cazeel was talking about?
adrenochrome. The
Yeah.
adrenochrome. I know. I believe all that stuff. So, I mean, I've been following David Icke since the mid '90s. I tell you, when I first saw David Icke, I didn't know who he was, and he came up the stairs at this event, and it was like, I felt like the energy in the room shifted. I looked at him and I was like, I don't see things and hear things really normally, but I felt like the guy had an invisible army around him. And he went over to the speaker table and checked in. And I after he left, I went over there. I was volunteering, and I said, "Who was that guy?" And they said, "Oh, David Icke. He's speaking in such and such a room." And I said, "Can I be the room monitor? Can I be the room monitor?" And they said, "Yeah, sure." So I heard him speak, and this was with his book, "And the Truth Shall Set You Free." And I was like, "Wow!" I mean, it was a whole other level of, information, conspiracy theory stuff. So I've been down that rabbit hole since then. So I can't unsee things and
You
unknow
can't.
things that I think are really happening. Yeah.
I was just wanted to check out one thing, Bashar. I can't see it on here now. I was looking at Bashar. Bashar. And you saw him recently, Bashar?
No, I haven't seen him recently. I mean, he's on YouTube. People interview him, and he says disclosures happening. So there's that going on. This urgency factor. Now, a lot of abductees, including myself, have this urgency factor. We feel like we're part of some mission, or we have some knowledge that's going to be activated at a certain time, and like I feel kind of like teacher vibes. Like I would be, because I used to be a teacher. I taught kindergarten through college. I'm an actress. I like to communicate. So I would love, if this is all going to happen and I'm still of working age, I would love to be useful, as long as I'm not part of a lie. Like, see, I'm so paranoid about what's the truth and what's the fake truth, that I would be happy to assist people like acclimating to this subject matter in some way, but I don't want to be telling them anything wrong. And
Yeah.
so that's a big part of it. I had an experience with light beings under hypnosis too, which was very ecstatic. It was very like pure love and bliss and weeping and oneness and all this. So I don't think all these interdimensionals are bad. Just like in traditional religions, like you have angels and demons. I think there's, good beings and bad beings, and we're all related energetically in different ways. And there's all this overlap of who we really are and how we relate to them, possibly. I don't know. I'm very open-minded about it, but I'm cautious, and I have a hard time making up my mind about things.
Just reading all the comments here. Government hides UFOs are real. So 2024, we have, I can't see what that is. Innovation. I don't know if this is spelled wrong. Proteins by guy. I don't know what he's saying. Sometimes I can't understand these comments. Cindy Simpson says good news that you called on the name of Jesus when you were having
Well,
those
it worked for
issues.
me. I've always had a Jesus thing. I love Jesus. And some people in the UFO community think Jesus was a hybrid, right? They're like, what was the Annunciation with Mary and Saint Gabriel? What was that? How did she
you
become
know
magically
what?
pregnant? Who
When
knows?
when you talk about Christianity and Jesus Christ and everything, he ascended into heaven. We might come back saying maybe Jesus is what an extraterrestrial. We don't, you know what I mean? How do we know? Like the
Right.
angels, and then you have the demons. They're all flying. They're all, and you see these Renaissance pictures, paintings with a UFO in the background. We always talk about that. It's just blimp.
Sorry, I had to
this
tell
one-
my son to be quiet. He came in the room.
That's okay. You can talk. Does he want to come on? Does he have any experience? Now this comment, George Knapp, and why you just respect him now because what don't you believe in the Corbell, like Jeremy? What don't you believe in that? They've come to the conclusion that most of these the new jellyfish is not a snot on the screen. It's not a smudge because the object changed the heat, like it got white. It wasn't dark anymore. It was reacted to the different levels of heat. So
Oh yeah.
why, I don't understand why don't you believe this? Are you disappointed, Chasm? I don't understand that. I don't know.
I don't not believe in it. I believe in the jellyfish UFO. As a matter of fact, I think so many people have described these UFOs, the craft themselves, as alive, or they have things about them that are alive. We also have so many things coming out of the ocean, right? And
Yeah.
there's so many amazing things in the ocean. Like I watched this Ancient Aliens episode on octopus brains, and octopus are wild. They have like 50,000 genes, and they have what does it say, like 4 hearts and 9 brains in their body. They're like way more advanced than humans in a lot of ways. So I mean, it's not a jellyfish, but it just makes you wonder, like, how much do we really know about what these things are in the ocean and where they came from? And also my son, he saw the jellyfish UFO footage, and he said, oh, it looks like this thing in Halo. And so I think also too, the military and Hollywood work together, the intelligence agencies rather, and Hollywood and the military, they work together to do disclosure through entertainment. They've been doing it forever, right? So they're putting out, I mean, think of the movie Independence Day, which, had all this military stuff in it. They had to get permission to put that in the movie. They had to get deals with the military to use planes and all that. So forever they've had, putting stuff out into the public domain to get our brains acclimated to certain concepts, right? And even in video games.
Absolutely.
It's all happening.
And getting back to Bashar, I was looking up his credits on what is it? The Hollywood play. What is that? You know what I'm talking about. His credits they have the movies, that website.
IMDb.
Yes. They're his credits, the person, not the real person, not Bashar.
Daryl Anka.
Yes. He has all these UFO movies, Avatar. And it just said, okay, so he's involved in this channeling, and he's getting ideas for his real life, all these movies and stuff from Bashar.
He does special effects. He did special effects modeling, right? So he was part of the teams that would make the spaceships and stuff for the shows.
Yeah.
And so, like when I met John Ramirez, who's CIA retired, he lives in Tucson, where I used to live for 10 years. He said, Camille, and he's an abductee, and he gives talks about being a experiencer. And he says, you have no idea how many people in the CIA are experiencers.
Yeah.
Let's say, whoa. And so we have, and I have NASA family. A lot of times you'll find experiencers have bloodline, family, abduction experience, whatever. And on my mother's side of the family, I have this uncle who worked for NASA. My cousin works for NASA. You know, so I often wonder, like, is it in my maternal bloodline, this experiencer targeting capability, whatever you want to call it, good or bad, you know? And so there are a lot of people in this that have this experience that have relatives in the military industrial complex or the intelligence or the aerospace complex.
It's crazy. I'm just, there's
Yep.
so much information. You could sit here forever talking about it. So when you went to, what was it? You're in the disclosure movement. Like, why? Just because the current disclosure movement? Why not? Why are you moving into? Is it because of all the things that have happened to you, or you think there's something else going on?
I was always out of the closet and lecturing and giving talks and all that. You know, in the 90s into the 2000s, I spoke for different MUFON groups and I did documentaries and things. And then in 2013, I had a born again Jesus thing, and I went down the religious rabbit hole. I was like born again. I went back to Catholic church. I was going to the Latin mass, like crying at mass. Just, I had this whole change of heart, like aliens or demons, and I'm going to church. And I did that till like 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And Jeff, it was weird because Jeff is an astrologer, right? And he actually predicted that. He said, you're going to have a spiritual awakening. And I said, oh, I have those all the time. And he goes, no, something big. And I was like, okay. And then when I went back to church in 2013, we were living in Tucson, and he was like, wow, I didn't think it would be that, you know, like, this is going to be interesting because your church forbids what I do for a living. And you're my secretary,
really,
you know, and so it was very challenging for our marriage, actually. And, but then it's like I came out of it a little bit. I backtracked a little bit, and I was like, you know what? That was all wonderful and lovely. And there were many things I love about it. But now I no longer think all of it is demonic. I think it's much more complex than that. And so I've decided to go back into the conversation and speak publicly and everything. And I actually was at church last year, and I was praying because I had church in this tent. It's a long story, but we were in a tent, and I could see the sky in this one corner. And it was right before I went to UFO Con to do my first public speaking in like 10 years. And I said, oh my God, Jesus, I'm so nervous. I said, I really need a sign, please. I said, if you are working with any good beings in the UFOs, can you please give me a sign? Because I don't want to lead anyone astray. That was my prayer. And I look up, and I saw these things come out of the clouds, and 4 of them, they were like white spheres, and they were dancing around each other. And I whipped out my camera, and I got video of it. It's on my YouTube channel. You can go look at it. Oh, I only got like, 10, 15 seconds. And then I felt really self-conscious because there were people behind me, and I was filming this guy in the middle of mass. But I think it was a sign. I think it was like, it's okay. You can do this. And I don't know if those were UFOs, birds, angels. I don't know what they were. Chris Bledsoe looked at my video, and he said, those are angels. I said, okay. And then I thought, well, even if they're birds, I don't think they were birds. They were really high. But even if they were, the Holy Spirit is a white bird. So maybe it was a sign anyway, even if it was a bird. I don't know. That's how I take it. But I just pray. I'm like, please just bring me closer to the truth, no matter what it is, even if it's totally not what I thought it was, And so that's kind of how I roll, with all that.
It's a good way to roll. I'm going to check out that video. Cindy Simpson says, do you or your family members have psychic ability?
No, not like where we would claim that. My grandmother, when she was sick at the hospital once, said she saw aliens in the hospital and was so scared they had to call her Presbyterian minister to pray with her. Oh my God. And this was in Huntsville, Alabama, where my NASA people live, and she was living with them. And they all got mad at me. They're like, you told her about your alien stuff, and now you filled her head with all these ideas, and you scared her, and you made her have this hallucination in the hospital. I was like, oh, maybe she was seeing aliens. She was probably on drugs. She probably could see through the veil, and that's what she
probably
saw.
could.
You know.
Yeah, you probably did see aliens. I mean, I've seen a lot of crazy stuff. In fact, last night I saw something crazy outside. My dog kept on wanting to go out to the bathroom. And he never does. She never does that. It's like, was at 1:45, 2:23, and then the next one was like 3:24. She never does that. I've had her for 10 years. She's never had to go to the bathroom like that. So I took her out and I looked at the security camera in the front yard. I swear I saw somebody sitting down, leaning against, we have these lion pillars like on each side of our porch. And I seen someone sitting there, literally sitting on the ground. His legs were out and he's just looking out. I'm like, what the? And then it was gone. It was gone.
Whoa.
I didn't know what I said, holy crap. And I'm thinking of my dog. Maybe she sends somebody outside and that's why she kept on going outside. It literally freaked me out. There's so many things out there that people are claiming that are interdimensional.
Mm.
Maybe that was somebody in interdimensional just come to poke and just, who knows? But why was he sitting out there on the porch?
Right. One of my theories is that the Earth goes through electromagnetic changes and resets, and weird stuff happens. And I think that when these resets happen electromagnetically, like a pole shift or whatever, I think our ability to see through the veil, like we get a broader spectrum of sense maybe when this happens. And so something's happening where they're not going to be able to physically hold the illusion. Like everyone's going to be able to see everything. So I think that's the urgency. And I think in the olden days, like in the 1800s, some people think we had a reset in the 1800s. And it makes you wonder because there were all these asylums, these big fancy asylums everywhere all over the world, and orphanages, and there were all these orphans being shipped all over the place. And it's like, what happened? Like were they like institutionalizing all the people that lost their minds? Because apparently when this happens, the electromagnetics can cause people to go crazy. So what if we had like a cosmic event or something that affected people's minds, and they or maybe there was a reset, and the people that didn't buy the new narrative, like this is the story, you will buy this lie, and maybe if they didn't, then they got locked up, and they wanted to teach the children the new version of history, and then that's why they wanted them all separated from the parents and re-educated, like re-indoctrinated in a different way.
Sort of like the Mandela effect, like we all see things that oh no, that's not true. We all, I don't know.
I don't know. It's just something to think about as far as like a scientific and a historical, perspective on reality not being what we've been told.
Yeah, Sebastian, I remember that. This is a crazy story. We went to the beach. I haven't been to the beach in 30 years, literally. Okay, so I went to the beach and staying in a condominium in Ocean City. It was a really expensive one, and we normally would never get it because it was so expensive. But there was a mishap, so we got it. It's huge. I mean, wraparound balcony with full ocean view. It was gorgeous. And as soon as I walked in there, I could not breathe. I mean, I felt like there was something off. Something in the atmosphere was just not normal. And everything in the whole place did not work. Everything was, all the electronic stuff did not work. There was the broken microwave was taped up. The refrigerator caught on fire while we were there. And then we were all I know, it was terrible. We're all sitting at this huge table. It reminded me of something on Game of Thrones. It was huge, and we're all sitting there and we're playing a game. And all of a sudden the fan went on. The fan, when we first went there, did not come on at all. It did not. Then we started asking it questions. The fan it was like answering the questions like, were you murdered here? And the fan would, yes for one, Oh, it went on for like an hour. And this place was so freaky. And it just seemed like there was something off on this whole building. Like it was like, I don't know if it was a ghost or like a portal. Nothing worked. I mean, it was like I couldn't wait to get out of there. And I was literally sick in that place. Not just me, my ex-husband was there too. And he felt off too. But he was just a lot of weird stuff. Like nothing is right. And the weather was so, extreme. I mean, I never seen weather like that we had there. Like the waves were something you would see in Hawaii, Excuse me, I'm having a
My husband saw some weirdness in New Orleans. The only places I've ever felt like really weirded out were in New Orleans when I lived there.
yeah.
Yeah. I had a house on Dauphine Street near Dauphine and St. Roch. And there was some darkness in that house. And I remember I moved in before my boyfriend because he was arriving with a load of stuff, a week or so after me. And I was terrified in that house. And I was doing sage and praying and all the stuff. And then Jeff, when he and I went to my friend's house on Ursuline, and he saw in her dining room, he said it was a man in the chandelier, like a ghost.
Oh God.
But I don't normally see things, but Jeff sometimes will see things.
That's freaky. No, there's a lot of weird stuff out there. I mean, and it seems like there's more and more every day. It's like and every day you like, I go on TikTok, and I know I probably shouldn't because it's China or whatever. But I like going on there because I see all this paranormal stuff.
Yeah.
That you won't hear on, because YouTube or somebody or in Facebook, they'll take it off. It's like there's like the Miami Bay Mall incident with the 8-foot, and then in Peru, that 8-foot creature that they're claiming was aliens.
I'm with you. I watch all that stuff.
And they're talking about it. Oh, it's like every day there's something else. And there's one guy on there on TikTok. He's from Wisconsin. He wears a cheese on his head. I don't know if you ever saw him, but he's been saying something isn't right. I don't feel right. And it's not just me. He said multiple people feel like there's something off. There's something out there that's just, we're not feeling. I don't know about you, if you're getting this feeling that you just you feel like you're waiting
off for a few years. And I'm a lot on edge, right? I do feel anxiety about the future, about something about to go down. I mean, normal things like I worry about World War III. I worry about, normal.
Oh yeah, right now
but I also worry about just reality is about to shift. So I'm trying to be mentally ready for whatever happens.
Something is happening. You can feel your weight. It's like I have this feeling of I'm waiting for something. Like something's going to happen.
Waiting for the shoe to drop. Something's about to emerge on the scene. I agree.
And it's like you don't know what is it? Something with disclosure? Is it something with, like you said, World War III? And they're talking about this new virus, new coronavirus. It's a deadly one. It'll kill you if you get it.
Yeah, we're in a battle between the tyrants and the freedom lovers, right? We're in this like serious collision course, right, between the World Economic Forum types who want us to eat and take away everything and depopulate.
They want us to eat bugs, and they want us to.
They publicly talk about depopulation and all these other things.
Bill Gates and the Rothschilds.
Yeah, you've got the farmers, in Europe, like in Ireland, they want to kill 200,000 cows because cows fart. So the farmers are like, screw you. And then the ones in Germany and France, they're like spraying manure on the public buildings because they're trying to screw up the farmers there. And they're trying to take away our food. They're trying to mess with the food supply in a big way. These globalists.
They're putting, it's they put this poison in the food. And I just found out that Hellmann's mayonnaise has biological engineered. It's a product. I don't know what ingredient I won't buy it anymore.
Yeah. It's pretty dicey times because we feel like we're under attack, and we are. Like, you're not crazy for feeling like you're under attack. And so the question then becomes, how how crazy prepper do you go? Like, we still live in LA, right? I'm like, I really
I
want to be
can't
out in the
believe,
middle of
like,
nowhere
you're
and hunker down
for
for a while.
you from LA, and you the way you have the views is very, that to me that's crazy. I
Oh,
mean,
I know.
oh my God, because usually people from not, there's a lot of people
Yeah,
that don't like, they're
I
more
know
on
what you
the
There are a lot of us here, though. There are a lot of people that can think straight that live in LA, believe it or not.
well, that's good to hear. Now, I listen to Alex Jones, and I know a lot of people said, "Why do you listen to him?" Because he's right.
Yeah,
All the stuff he says is true, and
I know.
they don't want to hear him. They want to shut him up.
Well,
And
it's I'm just, you know what? I'm just doing my thing. And it's like, you know what? My husband pays the bills. He's so busy doing astrology. I can get away with my career being, iffy because of the things I say or believe. I just don't care anymore. I'm
you
57
get
years old.
shadow.
I'm
They'll
like, I don't freaking
blackball
care.
you. They won't let you do anything. I mean, that's
I
look at
don't
how many
care.
people in Hollywood that got canceled because they have these
Yeah,
views. It's
I know.
sickening.
Well, here's something interesting. I'm in this group called Hollywood Disclosure Alliance, and it's newly formed, and it's pretty neat. So it's a coalition of, it's a networking group basically, but it's a way to bring together people in the UFO field with people in Hollywood to make more content that pushes disclosure. So some of us are in both categories, right? Like a lot of us are experiencers and Hollywood people.
Mm-hmm.
It was founded by a publicist in Beverly Hills who's an experiencer, whose dad was in secret government programs. And it's got, all these interesting people in it that want to make UFO movies or UFO TV shows or whatever. And it's very exciting because I do feel, I can be myself in most ways. But again, as far as everybody agreeing on everything and the whole political split and everything, I just do not care. I am sorry. I just am going to be myself. And yeah, I go to Latin mass. I'm married to an astrologer. I'm a
Hey,
UFO person, and
I
I'm
I
just
hear
being
you.
myself.
I
As
follow
long as I
Marshall
can pay the
Taylor.
bills and eat,
Yeah,
I'll survive.
definitely. I follow, like, I believe in all that. They won't even let you have a Latin mass anymore because the Pope is he let the devil infiltrate the Vatican. You know what I mean?
I can't say anything because I am such a bad Catholic, but I'm just everything is being exposed. Hopefully, we'll
Yeah.
all agree on reality when we get to the other side of this.
Well,
And
my hope is that they'll get rid of the Pope and get somebody else, or something happens, because you know how I don't know if you remember when the Vatican was struck by lightning.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, there's just so much. I don't know. We're at a spiritual war, good and
yeah.
evil, and hopefully all these rich globalists won't win.
Yeah, I
Hopefully
know what you mean.
we
And
all
I
stick
just said,
together.
here's something else too. I'm really into these books. Diana Pasulka, I don't know if you're keeping up with her, but she wrote American Cosmic. She's a Catholic theologian hanging
I'm
out
gonna
with
have to write
Silicon
that
Valley
one down.
geniuses talking about aliens and how they're getting downloaded with ideas for inventions from aliens.
Wait a
So
minute. Let
she's
me.
very interesting. And she also came out with this one, Encounters.
You're gonna have to
This year.
email me all these books because I can't keep up how fast you're going. They look like good
And
books to read.
anyway, she fascinates me because, see, the Catholic Church is trying to keep on top of the alien disclosure. They've always known, right? I mean, even David Grush came out and said, oh, yeah, Italy had a crash and the Vatican took it, right? And gave it to America to hide this UFO. So they know. And God knows what they have in the Vatican Library. Well, she gets to go in the Vatican Library as a researcher and look at first primary source documents of all these saints and
Wow.
mystics describing what was happening to them. And she's like, there's a lot of crossover with alien abduction to the mystics, So
Sounds
it's
really
very
cool.
interesting. It's just a very interesting way to kind of connect the dots.
I'm gonna have to read that. Like when you're talking about Hollywood and your Hollywood Disclosure on group, do they have any screen people like producers? I have a great
Yeah.
series. From the Sky. It's a series. I did a trilogy, and I have stuff on the third book that I changed the ending right away. I don't want to give it away, but I changed the ending for I just have this feeling of it at night, and I'm writing it, and I changed the ending, and it goes in a whole different direction, and it's a great trilogy. It has to be made into a movie soon. I don't know. I'm trying. I had it was optioned once by Lisa Sarasotto. She used to be on ABC. She's an actress too, and she worked for this producer in Hollywood. And they've been, when COVID came, we thought for sure it was going to be sold to Netflix, and with COVID and then the writer's strike, it's still, we're trying to, I need to get this book into a movie, or a series, because
well, there's some people. Go to the website. Go to the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance website, and there are producers.
I should definitely do that, because it's bringing to light that the totally different direction where we think extraterrestrials are. It takes it to a whole different level. And I don't know what. Maybe it was some kind of spiritual channel. I don't know what happened. Maybe I was abducted that night, whatever, and it's trying to tell me, no, that's not what it is. This is what it is. But yeah, it's crazy how we got to get this word out, and it's good to have people like you that can actually tell your story, because a lot of people feel there's a stigma attached to it and they don't want to tell it.
Well, more and more people are coming out. I noticed Goldie Hawn came out about her alien story, and Kurt Russell, he was flying a plane into Phoenix on the night of the Phoenix Lights. He saw the Phoenix Lights. So a lot of people that are famous are able to come out. But again, they're already rich. They have the house paid for.
Yeah.
You know, they can afford.
They don't care.
Can afford to do that.
They don't care. You get a job. Like, no, you're a Looney Tune. You can't talk about that stuff. No, you don't have, whatever.
I told my manager and agent, I said, I'm sorry, because I dropped out for like 9 years. And I said, look, I'm going to start talking about it again and doing interviews.
Good.
Are you cool with that? And they were like, you know what? It might even help your career. I mean, the world is so crazy. Who knows?
Who knows?
And I just thought, you know what? I deserve to be a piece of the puzzle, and I can communicate, and I'm that way. My nature is to communicate. So,
well, it's great. It's been a great night. I really enjoyed having you on tonight. And the audience did too. And
me too.
I think this is going to be the beginning of something, and it's good to have people like you. I'm so glad you got back out talking about it. And we'll have to have you back on the show again. Talk about some more alien stuff. But thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was a pleasure. I'll have to have you back on. Tell your husband I said hello. It's good to have him on. He's a cool guy. Yeah. But everybody, thank you so much for turning in to Chasing Prophecy on the United Public Radio Talk. Okay, have a great night, everyone.